Hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name is Matt and today we are going to be building this amazing glass design by DevEd. A couple days ago I saw a new video from DevEd in my feed and I loved the original design. After watching the video I was wondering how would the implementation look like, so I figured others would have the same doubt. That's why here is a full tutorial on how to build this beautiful glass gaming dashboard with only HTML and CSS. Let's jump right into it. We will start by creating the index.html and also the styles.css. With those two files, that's all that we are going to be working on. Start with Emmet !tab to create all the boilerplate. We will change the document title to dashboard, gaming dashboard. And then we will also link to our styles. That will be styles.css. And we will also be adding in here the font that we are going to be using, that is Poppins. I will just copy this, but you can go ahead and just copy the links from Google, search use HTML font Poppins, and you will get these two lines. After that, we are ready to start working on the structure of the page. So for this one, we are gonna to be using first a container. So basically use Emmet to create a div with a class container. Then this is a little bit of a hack, but it was the best way I found to do this, and I will later on explain this when we are working on the CSS. But we will also need another div in here for the blur filter. And inside of that, we are going to have our main, that is the content of our dashboard. And inside of the main, we will have two sections, basically. The first one will be for the dashboard itself. So ID dashboard. And inside of this dashboard, what we are going to be having is the user info and the navigation. So for this, create a div with the class user info. And inside of it, we are going to have an image for the profile. You will have my image in here with the profile.jpg and put in here profile image or profile picture or something like that. Down there we will have the name of the person, and in my case that will be Matt. After that we are going to have a little legend that will be if it is a pro member or not. And below this we will have our navigation, so create a nav tag. And inside of it, each link will have its own container because we need to style it in a block. So basically create a div with a class link container. And inside of it, we are going to be having an A tag. And this won't point to anything for now. And inside of it, we are going to be having an image and then a span for the text. So this will point to the images. And the first one will be twitch.svg. Correct, and this will be Twitch icon, and in here put a span that will be streams. So that's the structure for every link that we are going to be working on. And in here, just to copy, you can use Shift, Alt, and down arrow key and multiply this 3 other times and just modify this for each of the icons. We are missing the Showing Pro section, that is the button down there. So that will be also an article because it is self-contained and doesn't depend on any of the context on the dashboard. So an article tag is a good candidate for this. Just create an article here and let's put it an ID of Showing Pro. And inside of it, we are going to be having an H3. And inside of here, we are going to be putting Showing Pro for free games. But we want to put some BRs in the middle, so we are sure that there will be a break line and it will make everything looks better. Then below that, we are going to be having an image. This will point to images joystick. And the alt will be console joystick. And now we are done with the first section, that is the left side of the dashboard. And the second section, that is the active games to the right, we are going to be creating another section in here with an H1 that will say active games. Then below that, we are going to be having a div with an ID of search container because we want to have our little search bar in there. And inside of it, we are going to be having an input of type search and with a class of glass input and a placeholder of search. Great. So we have our input for searching. Then we need a div for the icon. Create a div to make it block. Then put an image that will be pointing to images, search, PNG. And the alt will be search icon. And the class will be search icon. And that's about it for the search container. I noticed that a lot of you that are watching this video are not subscribed, so let's fix that. Take a second, smash the subscribe button below to get much more content like this one. And below that, we are going to be having a div with the ID of cards container. Oops, cards container. Perfect. And inside of here, we are going to be having 3 divs, one for each game card. So let's do one and then we will copy them. And the first one will have the class game card, of course. And inside of it, we are going to be having an image for the game card. So this will point to images. And the first one is the Assassins. And this will point to Assassin's Creed Valhalla game. Perfect. And below the image, we'll have the div for the game progress. So basically game progress. And inside of it, we are going to be having a legend, an H5 with the title, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Oops, my bad. And then a P, a legend for the version of the game. And in this case, we are going to be having everyone with PS5 version. And then the progress tag that will have the value, in this case is 60, and also the max, so it can compute how much progress have you done there. Then we will also have the number progress. In this case, we put it in a separate element, so this will be the third element in the game card to the right, and this will have its own div, of course, with a class of percentage progress. And inside of it, we will just have an span with the percentage of the progress. And that will be about it. So let's go ahead and copy all this 2 more times and just modify this accordingly. So let's change this to So that's about it for the structure of the content. We will have just one more thing that are the circles that will compose the background and give that look of glass that will make everything pop up better. For that, we are going to be creating 2 divs, one with the ID of left circle and the class of glass circle, and just copy this once more and change this for right circle. And that's it. So let's take a look. Okay, looking good. We have all, oh, I forgot to change the images in here, but other than that, you can see that we have all the content for our application, right? So this is looking great. Let's go back and start with the CSS. For starters, we are going to reset everything with padding 0 and margin 0, as we always do. Then for the body, we are going to be starting with the background. This is one of the first things that gives the tonality for this design, and that is we are going to be using a linear gradient and the direction to left. And what this will do is basically just saying from right to left, use these colors in this percentage of the screens. So this will create a background that has green on the right side, blue in the middle, and green on the left side too. And the background size will be 100% and 100% for both directions, and the font family will be Poppins, as I anticipated before. Then we are going to be using the container class. If you remember that we created at the very start, just display flex, and then it comes the blur filter. We have a class for that, and basically this will give the glass idea that everything diffuminates below it. For this one, we are going to be setting the min width to 900 pixels. Then we are going to be setting the width standard to 50% of the screen. The margin in here, these numbers are not very nice, but they look very good. So you can go ahead and try them on your own and play around with those numbers, no problem. But I found these were looking pretty good. And this is the magic in here. The backdrop filter is the property that will make everything work with this blur. This is what will give the idea of that you are looking through a glass and everything that is below it will diffuminate. So to do that, just take note of the backdrop filter and set it to blur and an amount of pixels, and that will give you that nice glass looking effect. So after that, we are going to be styling the main. For the main, we are going to be using width 100%, height 100%, and then display will be flex. And for the background, in this one, we are just going to be using RGBA to put a white color but with a lot of opacity. So 0.2 is creating a nice looking background for the main tag of our application. And then border radius, just put a nice border radius of 30 pixels and overflow hidden. And with that, we have the styles for our main. Perfect. Let's move on to the dashboard. That is the left side of our application. Oops. For this one, the height will be 100%, the width will be 30%, the background will be again similar to before, but with a little bit less of opacity, so it pops up a little and looks more white. The display will be flex, and the flex direction in this one will be column, because we want things to go vertical. Then inside of the dashboard, we will have the user info class that we created, and in this one display will be flex 2, the flex direction will be column 2, the align items will be center, and the margin top we are going to be putting 1.8 rems. Inside of the dashboard we have user info, and then we need to style the images and the text in there. So for this one, use first the image, and the width of the image for the profile is 80 pixels, and we want this to have a border radius. We want this to be a circular image, so to do that you just have to do the width divided by 2 and just put that as a border radius, and that will give you a circular image. So in this case that will be border radius 40 pixels. So moving on, we have the, again, user info, I should have copied this, and then we have an H4, and for this one the font size will be 1.2 rem. The font weight, we want this to be bold, so put 900 should do it. And for the color, I will copy the color, give me a second. This is a dark bluish, so yeah, that should make it look very nice. And for the margin top, we are going to do a small margin of 0.5 rem. And let me copy this one so I don't type it again. And the last one is the H6, that is for the pro member legend, and this should be a tad bit smaller than the previous one, so 0.8 rem. The color should be the same, so let's copy that from above. And the margin top should be smaller too, so 0.25 rem. So perfect, we have our dashboard. Then we have the navigation inside of the dashboard, so let's create that. Dashboard nav, and we are going to be display flex, of course. Flex direction will be column 2, and we will have to add some margin at the top to separate it from the user info of 1 rem. Perfect, so now we have to style the links, so start with the link container, and this will have a width of 50% because we want this centered, so let's just put margin auto, and that will do it. And the next thing will be to style the links, so basically copy that and add the A tag. And this one we have to just remove the text decoration to none. We want to also use a lighter bluish color, so color will be a lighter bluish. The font weight, we want this to be bold too, so 700. The font size can be 1 rem, that looks good. Display will be flex, whoops. And align items will be center. With a little bit of padding, this should look much better. So we're missing 2 more styles to finish with the navigation, and that will be the image inside of here. That will have a width of 25 pixels, a height of 25 pixels, and a margin to the right of 1 rem. And the last one will be the span that is inside of here too. And I am missing an A tag in here. There you go. Perfect. And that will be a line height of 2.5 m. And that should do it for all the links. So now we have to work with the Join. Remember the Join Pro button that is at the very bottom, and that will be a display flex. It will have a width of 80%. It will have a background of a linear gradient. Again, always working with the gradients in here with this design, and this will go to the left. And again, we are going to be using the same two colors, but in this case we are not going to be using one in the middle and two to the sides, but rather just blue and green. And then we are missing a couple more attributes. In here we are going to also center everything, so margin auto, align items will be center, justify content will be a space between, and we will add some padding of 1 rem and 0 with a border radius of 30 pixels. Everything should look pretty nice. And there are a couple of items inside of the Join Pro, so let's style those two. The Join Pro has an H3, that is the text in there, and we want this to have a color of white so it pops up from the linear gradient of blue and green, a font size of 1.2 rem, and a margin to the left of 1.5 rem. Oops. 1.5 rem. Perfect. Then the Join Pro also has an image, of course, that is to the right side. So this will take 70% of the height, and it will have a margin right of 1 rem. So let's style just the container of active games, and then we can check how this is looking so far. So for active games, we will have a width of 56% and a height of 86%. With a margin of auto. So with this, we should have all the dashboard to the side done and ready to work on the main section. Let's take a look. Okay, so clearly I made a mistake and everything else is looking okay, but you can see that the image is super big and this is missing some styles. So if we go back to the code, you can see that I mess up on the namings of the user info because I use camel case instead of the standard for this. Okay, so if we modify all of this to use the dash inside in user info, that is the name of the class that we actually use in here. So that should make it work. Let's save this and check again. And now we have our dashboard looking perfectly fine. Okay, so it has the nice profile picture in there with the name, the pro member legend. It has all the navigation links for streams, games with the images and so on. And it has our Join Pro for free games banner that has the nice background and everything with the linear gradient. Okay, so this is looking quite good. We just need to style this and also the circles in the background, and we will done with it. Let's move to the next section. Okay, so let's start working on the right section of the site. For that, we are going to be styling first the H1 inside of Active Games, and we are going to be using the same color we used before, the dark bluish one. So copy that from above. Then for the font weight, we are going to be using 900 because we want this to be very, very bold. And the font size will be 1.8 rem. Then we have the search container, and that one will have a display flex property. The flex direction will be raw. Reminder that this is the default, but I like to specify it. And the margin, we will have some margin at the top of 1 rem. Then we have the class for glass input, and on purpose I put this as a class and a generic one because we could have several other inputs and we will want all of them to look the same with this glass style. So that's the idea. And for this one, we are going to be having a background of linear gradient. And the idea is to go to bottom right. And we are going to be using RGBA once again to use a white with opacity. And this will go from 0.6 to then we will use the second one that will be the same but to 0.2, so basically a much lighter with higher opacity one. That will give it a nice effect of glass to the input. Then we're going to be having a border in here of 1 pixel solid, and once again instead of just a white we are going to be using this same very transparent with RGBA with 0.2, and then we are going to be using a border radius to make this look more like the same idea of the glass window we have in the main form, and this will have a 40 pixel border radius. We will have some padding of 10 pixel and 20 pixel and opacity over everything. After we already have the border and the background, we will also add some opacity on top of that to make that glass effect go even further. To remove that effect that has Chrome, once you select something, it puts some very strong black border when it is selected, so we want to remove that, and to do that we just need to do this on focus and outline none. Then we will have the search icon class, and for this one we want to style the width to be only 25 pixels. We want to add some margin to the left of 10 pixels and some padding at the top, 5 pixels. Then we have the card container with a margin top. We want a big margin in here of 3.5 rem. And then we have the game cards. So for the game cards we have a couple of styles to do to make them look nice. So start with a margin bottom of 2 rems. Then we want this to display flex. We want the width to be only 80%, so we have some space to the sides. And then we want the background to be on another linear gradient. Of course, you can copy it. This is not 100% white. I just tune it a little bit. So go ahead and copy it. So you have the same effect and the same color I found that look nice. So for the padding, we want 1 rem and 2 rems. Oops, 2 rems. Then for the border radius we want 20 pixels, and then we will want to add some box shadows in here that will make it pop a little bit, and it will be diffuminated, so it will look quite nice. And the opacity of the whole card should be at 0.9, so it is still pretty white, it is strong and it pops with the box shadow, but it still has a little bit of opacity to add to that glass idea of the whole application. Then we have to add some spacing, some border radius and some heights, so let's do that very quickly. So inside of the game card we have the game image, and this we want to have a border radius of 25 pixels to make them a little bit round. Then we have the height that we want to set at 80 pixels, so it is fixed. And we have the game card and the game progress, that is the container. And that we only want to set the margin to 2 rem to the sides and 0 at the top and bottom. Then we have the game card. Inside of it we have the game progress again with the H5, that is the title of the game. So the font size we want it to be 1 rem and the opacity to be 0.7. Then we have once again inside of the game card and the game progress we want the P tag for the text, and we want to add some margin to the top of it of 0.3 rem. The font size will be 0.7 rem, and the opacity will be 0.4 because we want this to be much more translucent than the other one. And then lastly we have the progress, that is the progress bar inside of this, inside of the game progress. And for this one we only want to set the height to 30 pixels, the margin top to 0.5 rem, and the width to 100%. Okay, looking good already. We are missing the tag that has the number at the very right, remember? So we have the game card and we have the percentage progress. And for this one we want to display flex once again. We want to align items at the center. We want to margin auto. We want the font size to be 1.5 rem. We want the font weight to be 700. We want the color to be a bluish, but that pops up much more, so you can copy this code that I found was very good. And the opacity will be 0.8. We are only missing the 2 circles, so let's do those and check what is the result of all this work. So let's do the class of glass circle first. That will be general to both of them, and the width will be 330 pixels, the height will be also 330 pixels, the border radius will be 50%, sorry, so this is a circle. Then the background will be a linear gradient, and again I will just copy this because it is the same that we have been doing all day, just using white with a lot of opacity in one corner and very low opacity on the other. Okay, and then we will also add on top a little bit of opacity to the whole circle, so it will go with a linear opacity and then an opacity on top, and it will make it look very nice. We will want to do some position absolute because we want to make sure they stick in the position we set them, because they have to be like part of the background, and that's the idea. And then we also want to set the zeta index to a random value negative, so it goes below everything and blends with the background. And then we just need to set the positions of the left circle and the right circle. For that, just do left 15 view width and bottom 5 view height, and then the same but inverted for the right circle. So if we do that, this will be right and this will be top. And that should do it. Before going and seeing the result, I just remember that we mess up on the images for the game, so let's go ahead and fix that. The first one is Assassin's Creed, but the second one is actually Spider-Man, and then change the other one, the other image, to Sackboy. Perfect. Sackboy, a big adventure game. Okay, perfect. So let's see the final result of all our work. Okay, so it is looking good, but we miss a couple of things. I mess up a little bit, so let's go back to the code and fix it. Basically, in here, this should be cards container instead of card. And then I also forgot the ID of this section, that is active games. And I also forgot to add the class of game image to all the images for each game. So let's go ahead and do that. Add the class of game image to each of the images tags for the games inside of the game card. And let's save this and look at the final result. Okay, that is looking so much better. Now we don't have any styles broken, we don't have the images very big or without border rounds, and we have that glass style that we were pursuing without all these cool linear gradients with the blue and the green and everything that makes this design so beautiful. That was the idea that we were pursuing, that I really loved when I saw the video from DevEd. Major thanks to you, Ed, for sharing with all of us this cool design. And I just wanted to show you how you could implement this and make this part of your toolkit of your design and front-end development skills to be able to create some pretty unique styles and pretty cool ideas in your following projects. I hope you like it. Don't forget to smash the like button below, and I will see you in the next video.